We'll get started out with Michigan's loss to Oklahoma 24-13 in a game that obviously was college game day. There was a lot of hype going into this game, the only top 25 matchup for the whole entire day. Obviously, it was a big moment for Michigan. It was a big moment for Oklahoma. It was the Sharon Moore welcome home game. And this game, honestly, was an interesting one to watch because the issues with Michigan last year was that they did not have a quarterback. And now they truly do have a quarterback. Now, the thing with Michigan last year, in the past couple of years, at least under the Jim Harbaugh regime, is that the offensive line has always been really good and it has always been one of the main strengths for this team. With that being said, this was one of those games that I looked at this offensive line and they struggled. And that hasn't happened very often for Michigan at all, at least in the past 5-10 years. Like, this offensive line has always been really, really good. And they've struggled this year, at least compared to what they have been doing. Like, their offensive line historically has been really good. And with Sharon Moore being a former OC and former offensive line coach, you really think under his tenure, not only would the offensive line still be good, but there's a possibility that it could get better. Now, obviously, with how good it's been, could it really get much better? I don't necessarily know the answer to that. But you'd think this offensive line would not have as many issues as it has. And they really had Bryce Underwood running around all night. And you have to really give credit to Oklahoma for that. Now, I know there's Michigan fans that are really upset with the offensive line, that they don't think the offensive line is good. And I think there is something to say to that. I think, at least for what they're used to, maybe this offensive line isn't good. With that being said, though, you also have a little bit of frustration with Chip Lindsey in the offensive coordinator position and with Sharon Moore, because there were several times in this game, not only was Bryce Wood running around, there were several times in this game where they wouldn't take shots down the field. Like, there was a lot of times where they threw the ball not even past the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of times where they're running screens. And I'm not someone that isn't against screens. I'm someone that I think the screen game can work. Now, I do know that this was a huge game for Bryce Underwood, that this was his first true away game in a huge atmosphere in the spotlight. But he went 9 for 24 yesterday, 142 yards, no scores whatsoever. Did I expect Bryce Underwood to be a little bit better in this game? Yes. Did I expect him to have some turnovers? Yes. I don't think they forced the issue enough. And it's one of those things where, yes, he might force a turnover. He might not throw a great pass. But you would rather have, at least if I was a Michigan fan, you would rather have a coach that was aggressive, that would take shots if he had time, than a coach that really seemed like this offensive play calling was extremely conservative. It's just one of the most baffling things to me of what this play calling was. Now, again, do I think the pass rush and do I think the pressure played into that? Yeah, I think there's some argument to that. But outside of really Justice Haynes' 75-yard touchdown run to start the second half, Michigan couldn't do anything offensively in this game. Now, you do have a guy in Donovan McCulley that I thought was the best wide receiver in this game for Michigan, 3 catches, 91 yards. They also didn't have Marlon Klein, which obviously plays an impact in this game. And I do think you have to give credit to Oklahoma for playing pretty great defense. But it truly seemed like when Michigan had the opportunity to take advantage of either mistakes or take advantage when they had the opportunity to do so, they did not do that, because there was multiple times, at least one other time, that Michigan's defense should have absolutely picked off John Mater. Like, there was multiple times where they should have done so, did not do so. They did get one interception against him, which was a great play. Not necessarily the greatest throw, but like they had multiple opportunities to take advantage of possible mistakes, and they did not do so whatsoever. And then when they had opportunities to be aggressive, especially later on in this game, they weren't aggressive. It truly seemed like this coaching staff was, again, very, very conservative. And if you're going to win a game on the road, I understand with a freshman quarterback, it's hard to say go for it, it's hard to be aggressive. But with this freshman quarterback, you have to be okay with living with possible mistakes. And I think in this game, they held Bryce Underwood back a little bit. Now, again, it continues to go back to the offensive line, and can they block? Bryce Underwood is a good enough athlete where you saw even when he got out of the pocket, he was able to find his wide receivers down the field. Like, it just is interesting to watch. Like, it truly seemed like a game where Michigan struggled very mightily in offense. And when it came to defense, I thought overall they didn't perform bad. I thought that John Mateer was pretty good overall. Now, again, he did throw one interception, 270 yards, but he destroyed Michigan with his legs. Like 2 touchdowns through his legs, 74 yards. Every time he needed a big play, he either found Deion Burks, which was a former Michigan high school player, Belleville. We talked about that in the preview, where Michigan talks about the best players in Michigan stays in Michigan. Well, look at Deion Brooks. Burks could have been really good for this wide receiver room for Michigan. And I think he made a point to have a great game because he had 7 receptions, 101 yards, 1 touchdown. He scored the first touchdown of the game. He made it a point to show up. And I think there's one thing to say about wanting revenge. I think Burks really wanted to beat Michigan. And I think you really saw in this game why he wanted to do it and that he really meant it. And I think Oklahoma made a few more plays than Michigan did. I think offensively, while Oklahoma didn't run the ball extremely well, which I don't think anyone is surprised by that, because I still think this Michigan defense is pretty good at stopping the run. Maybe not great at stopping quarterbacks that are mobile, but they did a pretty good job on Barnes, Laylack, Ott. Like, overall, they did pretty well besides Mateer. It's just one of those games that you look back on and you saw opportunities for Michigan to win. And unfortunately, because of the offensive line, because of play calling, because of frustration with this offense, I think Michigan fans are starting to become really, really interested in seeing what this offense is going to be. And I think it truly starts with this offensive line. If this offensive line continues to be an issue protecting Bryce Underwood, it might be a season that is really long for this offense. And I think Oklahoma is good defensively. I think Oklahoma with Mateer is good enough offensively. Do I think this is a season-ending loss for Michigan? No, not anywhere close to that at all. Like, I predicted Michigan to lose this game. I didn't think Michigan was going to go on the road with a rookie quarterback and win this game. With that being said, I did expect Michigan to perform better than they did. I think it was a disappointing effort. It was a disappointing game. And I think any Michigan fan listening to this would agree with that. There's going to be some real conversations that's going to have to be had. And this is a game that obviously will lead to results down the road. It will lead to some changes. Having Marlon Klein back will definitely help. It's truly going to depend on this offensive line, and Michigan's offensive line was not good enough in this game. And besides Justice Hayes, they didn't do enough. Haynes was really good in this game outside of the big run. Like, he is really, really good. He is really fast. He's a guy that, if he breaks your tackle, could very much take it to the end zone. But is this offense and is this wide receiver room good enough? That's the real question. Are they going to give Bryce Underwood enough time? That's another question. And in today's game against Oklahoma, the answer to that question is no. And if that continues to happen, there's a real possibility that Michigan could lose a decent amount more games. Now, again, it's week 2. Obviously, there's a lot to look forward to. There's a last season left to go. In my opinion, if you're a Michigan fan, you should not be panicking whatsoever. But there should be concerns with this offensive line. And if this offense doesn't have more than a running attack this year, it could be a disappointing offense in year 1 under Bryce Underwood. Now, I do think they'll be better throwing the ball. I think Marlon Klein's a bigger loss than people realize. But offensive line is truly where the offense starts. And they need to figure something out there, or it could be really interesting throughout this season. But yeah, not a good game for Michigan. I know Michigan fans are frustrated with the offense coordinator, Chip Lindsey. I know they might be a little frustrated with Sharon Moore. I know they're definitely frustrated with just how this game went overall. Because I think if you're a little bit more aggressive, I don't know if you necessarily win this game, but I think this game's closer towards the end. And unfortunately, because of a little bit of conservatism, in my opinion, you end up losing this game. But hey, you have Central Michigan next week. It's a game that you should absolutely win. It's a game that you should control from start to finish. It's a game that Sharon Moore will not be coaching in, so I'm going to be really interested to see what happens there. But yeah, that's really the recap for Michigan.